One of my favorite builds for the Elder Scrolls Online, the 1-bar God Mode Magicka Templar, just got a lot stronger now thanks to subclassing. This build can solo pretty much anything you throw at it, from dungeon bosses to world events like harrowstorms. Even some trials bosses don't stand a chance. Plus, with a mix of overland and crafted gear and 0 bar swapping, this build is about as easy as it gets. The solo God Mode Magicka Templar is back and better than ever, and I can't wait to share it with all of you, so let's jump right into the video. Alright everybody, here we are back on the Magicka Templar. Time to update our 1-bar solo God Mode build for the Elder Scrolls Online. If you know this one, this has been around for a long time, but it's a lot better now with subclassing. Very, very powerful when we can take advantage of other skills from other skill lines, and we've changed the gear sets up quite a bit to take advantage of that as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the buff stats here. Starting with our potion and taking a look at the stat sheet here. 30k max Magicka, 24k max health, 14k max stamina. Very solid Magicka recovery, about 1800. That definitely will be helpful. Weapon and spell damage is going to be closer to 5000 when we're fully buffed with all of our abilities. And our crit chance will be over 70% as well. You can see we have solid penetration, solid resistances, and that's all going to go up during combat as well. 64 points into max Magicka, this being the Magicka focused Templar. We are using the Thief Mundus just to get that crit chance as high as possible. And in terms of our food, we have Clockwork Citrus Fillet. This just gives you the best stats overall because you do need some Magicka recovery. You get the bonus health recovery here as well. If you want something simpler, cheaper by far, then Witch Mother's Potent Brew would be a nice option there as well. But you can see all the stats that we're getting on the build. Also, you can probably guess what that means. Now, in terms of the potions, you can use tri-stat potions, which I'm doing for more difficult content, but basic max Magicka potions will be completely fine on this build as well. And then in terms of the race, we've gone with Khajiit for the extra recovery, extra max stats, as well as 12% critical damage and critical healing. Now that does take us into the upper ranges of crit damage, especially for group content. So if you're wanting to do something a little bit more organized, then I probably would go with High Elf or Dark Elf in that case. Yeah, that's the basics. So let's jump right into the gear sets next, which are definitely changing in Update 46. Let's talk about this new crafted set first. Tideborn Wildstalker. This is the new crafted set for the Solstice Zone, Western Solstice. You can craft this. And it's actually very good specifically for classes that have a lot of direct damage, that being Templar, specifically in this case, but you know, the Arcanist Beam is very good, Nightblade abilities are very good, Warden abilities. We're going to be mixing some of those in on this build for sure. But you can see the 5-piece there increases your direct damage done to monsters by 12%. So this is specifically for PvE content. But we have really good 2 through 4-piece bonuses as well, particularly the pen for solo content. And yeah, this is crafted, which is excellent because you can craft this in any pieces, any weights and traits that you want. Now, just to make things kind of easy for this version of the build, I did this on the body. What you can do with 5 pieces on the body is you can run like a heavy chest, as well as medium legs, just to kind of maximize your armor and your resistances overall. So yeah, what I did was 5 pieces on the body. Again, heavy chest, light shoulders, light waist, light gloves, and then medium legs. That's 5 pieces there, helping us to maximize our armor. And we also get more stats from the Undaunted Metal passive. So that's a nice thing you can do there with crafted sets as well. But yeah, excellent set. If you have access to Solstice, I definitely recommend you pick this up. It's going to be very good on a variety of builds for PvE content specifically. Moving on to our second 5-piece set, something kind of interesting here. War Maiden. This comes from the Morrowind chapter, the Vardenfell zone. This is an overland set, so it's fairly easy to farm. Why am I using this? Well, you can see we have decent 2 through 4 piece bonuses, and the 5-piece is pretty interesting. It adds 600 weapon and spell damage to your magic damage abilities. Now, I was playing around with other sets on this, for example, Deadly Strike, because this is, you know, a Magicka Templar. Deadly Strike is pretty typical for, you know, that channeled puncturing sweep ability. But I started to notice that all of the subclassing skills I was picking up, actually, they all dealt magic damage, including my Templar skills. So I tried this out, and it actually far outperformed the Deadly Strike set in terms of damage. That's because Deadly Strike is only buffing our channeled abilities, right? Which in this case, for this 1-bar build, is really only sweep. Whereas War Maiden, set up with the correct abilities, is buffing every single damage ability in your kit. And that's a pretty powerful combination. So how we've set this up then, we've got the War Maiden's Lightning Staff, Precise as the trait, Absorb Magic as the enchant there. Remember, that's a 2-ended weapon, so that's going to count for 2 set piece bonuses. And then we just have the War Maiden's shoes and then 2 pieces of jewelry. War Maiden's necklace, War Maiden's ring. Transmute those to Bloodthirsty if you have the extra transmutes for a bit of extra damage, and then weapon and spell damage glyphs on both of those. So that is our second 5-piece set. And if you don't have this yet, Deadly Strike is still an option. You'll have a bit less damage, like I said. But I know many people still have Deadly Strike on their Templar. That's totally fine. The build is actually super powerful either way. But if you really want to, maximize your damage, check out War Maiden on this particular build with all the magic abilities that we have. That just leaves a few things left over. Obviously, we've got the Oaken Soul Ring here, Bloodthirsty, weapon and spell damage glyph on this one. This is giving us access to all of our major and minor buffs, which make this so easy on the 1-bar setup. You don't have to bar swap. You have tons of powerful buffs available on your character. And then 1-piece monster set left over. That's going to be a light slime craw helmet. But yeah, that is the setup. Like I said, if you want to see all the different versions of this, how you could run this with Deadly Strike, for example, check out the written guide. I'll have that linked below, and multiple versions of the build and alternate gear sets there. But let's jump into the skills next, where things get even more interesting. And specifically, I want to talk about subclassing and what I'm making work here on the 1-bar Magicka Templar. Now, obviously, we have Adric's Spear. This is just kind of the best Templar skill line for soloing, if that's what you want to do, specifically on the 1-bar build because of Puncturing Sweep. Right, we've got the damage, AoE damage in front of us, plus the healing back. That's pretty much a no-brainer. But also, kind of a not very well-known skill, Radiant Ward is actually huge on this one. This is a damage shield that also applies damage, it debuffs enemies, and it increases in shield size the more enemies you hit, up to 120%. So we'll have like a 16, 18k shield on this when we're fully surrounded. It also has reduced cost, and actually this is like one of my favorite damage shield abilities in the game right now. I've done some neat tricks with champion points as well, which you'll see in a minute, where I actually get healed back when I use this skill for each enemy that I hit. So it's kind of like an all-around amazing skill, and it's what makes this build really great in solo content. So yeah, don't sleep on that. Obviously, we have tons of very nice passives from Adric's Spear as well. Piercing Spear giving us that 12% critical damage. That's huge. Burning Light, of course, is giving us even more magic damage. And Balanced Warrior giving us a very nice 6% weapon damage, spell damage, and armor passively. With that, we went with kind of the typical that you're seeing on a lot of builds right now, the Assassination skill line from Nightblade. But this fits really nicely for a couple reasons. One, you've got Merciless Resolve, which this is a magic damage ability, so it's getting buffed by War Maiden, doing a ton of burst damage, especially when this crits. You're going to see 60, 70k crit bow procs on this. Lots of healing as well, so you can reserve it for a burst heal, and it's giving you passive weapon and spell damage. How I'm typically using this now on builds is you can see you can now stack it up to 10 times. And so I'm building it up to those 10 stacks, and then when I fire it off, it's going to bring me back down to 5 stacks, and then I'll kind of build it back up to 10. So I'm always getting at least a little bit of bonus weapon and spell damage in that way from having 5 stacks passively and then firing off from 10. So that's how I would use that ability. Now, obviously, we also have Soul Harvest, which is giving us a ton of damage, 20% bonus for all damage sources against a target for 8 seconds. That's a huge burn, especially on bosses and elite mobs that you want to take down quickly. Plus, you get 10 ultimate back per kill, so you can have this up pretty much right away in the fights that have a lot of adds. Of course, we have tons of passive potential here with more crit chance, lots of sustain when we have adds in the fight, pressure points giving us even more crit chance, and hemorrhage for even more crit damage and critical chance through minor savagery. So yeah, I really love this combo, you guys, of Adric's Spear and Assassination for all the crit chance that we get and also crit damage. You know, being able to stack 2 crit damage passives, Piercing Spear combined with Assassination and Hemorrhage, that's a really great combo. Definitely worth checking out if you have either of these classes that you want to subclass. Now, the final skill line here kind of was up in the air for a while. I did eventually settle on Animal Companions for solo play. One of the big reasons for that is this skill right here, Deep Fissure. Now notice that this does magic damage, and that's when I started to think, oh, okay, I want to run War Maiden on this build because even Deep Fissure is doing magic damage. Again, huge damage spikes on this, especially when you crit. For solo play, this is pretty much the best in slot right now in terms of debuffing enemies because you have major and minor breach in an area of effect right in front of you, right? And that's a 10-second debuff. I love how this fires off multiple times during the fight, so I really just need to tap it once in a lot of cases, and then it's going to take care of a lot of damage, and of course that debuff. Now I have another debuff here, Fetcher Infection. Guess what? It does magic damage. It also increases on every second cast, and it deals the minor vulnerability debuff, so an extra 5% damage taken on my target. So yeah, using these two skills mainly has added a ton of damage to this build. Passives are cool as well, though. We get the healing back when we're casting. We get ultimate generation. That's going to fire pretty much every time you use Deep Fissure. Flourish for 20% Magicka and stamina recovery is excellent. And then the advanced species passive, hey, we're getting another 10% critical damage. So we're getting, what, 32% bonus crit damage from our skill lines? That's insane. Really nice combo. So yeah, that's what I'm recommending on this build. You know, in terms of your just skill bar and how that looks, really simple. We already went over all of these. So Fetcher Infection and Deep Fissure, along with Radiant Ward, Puncturing Sweep, Merciless Resolve, and Soul Harvest. So we're running all class abilities on this particular build now. All right, quickly, let's talk about the rotation. It's really simple. You're just going to maintain your buffs and debuffs pretty much. So I'll start with Deep Fissure typically. Add my Fetcher Flies. Start doing my sweep. To maintain that damage and healing, you can see I have multiple healing sources rolling in. You have to refresh Fissure about every 9 seconds or so. And you can see that now I'm at 10 stacks with my Merciless Resolve. I can fire that off, but it's actually better to use Soul Harvest and then fire it off because it amplifies that by an additional 20% damage, right? So now I'm just going to build up again to 10 stacks. Now that I'm at 10, fire it off again. Continue through, refreshing Deep Fissure. Use your potion when it's off cooldown. 10 stacks again, and my ultimate's ready, so I'm going to do ultimate, comboed into Merciless. Start refreshing those 2 animal companion skills. Merciless is ready again, fire that off. Make sure you don't recast Deep Fissure early, because otherwise you'll miss the explosion. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ult into Merciless again. Towards the end of the fight, you can probably use like maybe 2 bow procs if you want. Depends on how much health the enemy has left, right? But yeah, there you go. Very simple, easy rotation. Champion points next. Let's talk about the slotted stars here. If you want to see a full breakdown of this for 300, 600, 900, and 1200 champion points, I'll have that over in the written guide. Again, link will be down below in the description and the pinned comment. Make sure to check that out. But in terms of the just slotted stars that we're using, Steed's Blessing in the green tree, combined with Master Gatherer, Gifted Rider, and Warmount. In the blue tree, a couple of important ones here, Biting Aura for your AoE damage, and Master Arms for your direct damage. So that's going to help skills like Puncturing Sweep, like Deep Fissure to do even more damage. We also have Fighting Finesse for an extra 8% critical damage and critical healing. And here's the star that I really like for soloing. Reaving Blows, when you deal direct damage, you heal for 8% of the damage done. That's healing us on almost every ability. Soul Harvest, Merciless, even the shield from Radiant Ward and Deep Fissure, those are all healing us back thanks to the Reaving Blows CP star. If you're running this in a group with a healer, then you can swap that for something like Wrathful Strikes for more passive weapon and spell damage. Finally, in the red tree, we've got Fortified for the extra armor, Boundless Vitality for the extra health. I did want to pick up Siphoning Spells for a bit of extra sustain. This is really helpful when you're clearing dungeons quickly. You'll get basically back to full Magicka instantly after killing a pack of enemies, combined with your Nightblade passive, of course. And then Bastion, just for a little bit of extra shield size. Again, this is going to be really helpful for soloing. In terms of the outfit style here, in case you were just wondering what this look is, this is actually a costume. Fitting for the War Maiden build, we're running the Scarlet Judge from Vardenfell. So that's going to wrap up this build video. Don't forget though that we have a written guide with all the alternate skills, gear, passives, champion points listed, and much more. Just grab the link for that down below. And if you're liking the new subclassing builds, we're also creating even more for our tier 2 channel members called the Elite Squad, like our unkillable Druid build, which combines powerful fire and lightning magic with animal companions to fight by your side. I've been having a ton of fun with this build recently too, because it just feels like a brand new class, a fully functioning Druid in ESO. Members of our tier 2 Elite Squad can unlock this build right now, along with dozens of other members only builds and guides. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, that's a really easy way to do it, and you get a truckload of bonus content, not to mention early access to videos and members only Discord. Just make sure to select the Elite Squad option if you're interested, and to get started, just click on the join button down below or the membership link in the description to see our complete library of members only builds and guides. Huge shout out as always to our channel members who make this channel possible. I truly could not do what I do without you, so thanks again. And thanks to all of you for watching this video. I hope you're doing well, stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next one.